As Africans prepare to celebrate Golden Jubilee of the African Union, youth development activists questions the basis for its existence.
Africa and Africans, especially our leaders, have rendered Pan-Africanism completely useless as an ideology in failing to implement it adequately and equally across Africa. And at this point, when the AU is 50 years, it stands a risk of being totally irrelevant.
International relations expert says the assertion is far-fetched. Tonight we interrogate the relevance of an African Union as we place the continental body under the spotlight.
This is Top Story with Evans Mensah.
Top Story is brought to you by Bond Financial Services, your success, our passion. Belacqua Mineral Water, the new generation mineral water, Blue Rose Limited, Shelter for All, as well as MyJoyOnline.com and Star Life Assurance. My name is Francis Aben. The African Union turns 50 years tomorrow. Already heads of states representing the over 1 billion Africans have gathered in the Ethiopian capital, Addis Ababa, for the commemoration of the day. Ghana's President John Mahama is expected to deliver the keynote address, for which he is expected to sell to the African continent the progress of Ghana as a model for the continent. But prolific writer has provoked what will be the strongest view dare told. Kiwa Likimani is questioning the basis for the union's existence. She argues the union has little or nothing to show.
I think we have failed, and there are legitimate, some of the reasons why we have failed are understandable in some cases. Pan-Africanism, as I understand it, I think as we all accept it, is about the total emancipation, full sovereignty, and it's a framework that is supposed to ensure that Africans have human rights upheld and that we are entitled to basic services, education, health, and those things. One of the things that bothers me a lot is that African citizens that reside in the member states of AU have wildly differing experiences. So my experience here as a Ghanaian differs from somebody's experience in Eritrea or in countries that have it worse than I have it here in Ghana, or in countries that have it better than I have it here in Ghana. And we have failed to ensure a certain basic good standard of what Africans' lives should be like. 50 years after this whole idea of Pan-Africanism was first, when we accepted. Some of us were not born. So if we are going to so I don't think there's anything to celebrate. There's nothing to celebrate. It is a time for us to be introspective, to think about whether this is a project we want to take forward, and if we are going to take it forward, in what form should it take? Certainly, just continuing on the AU as it currently exists is not what some of us, and I don't think I'm different. I think young people are largely disenfranchised from this process. So they started already talking about Vision 2063, and I don't think so. We should not be talking about Vision 2063 and making any kind of visions for a population that are disenfranchised from the process. We fail the young people. We continue to fail young people of Africa. Among other things, we failed women. We failed certain key segments of the community, and we need to address this, and I don't think there's anything to celebrate.
Who do we pin it down to? Who should we be holding the gun at and say, look, you have not done it well, and that is why we have nothing to celebrate today? I think that some of it is our leaders, but largely it's also that we undermine ourselves as Africans. The educated class of Africa has undermined Africa, and so I bear responsibility for that as well. It is us who have gotten this. We have led ourselves here. Our leaders are to blame, but educated Africans have failed Africa. Right. We've undermined ourselves, and we should think about how we really get ourselves out of the mess we're in. Okay, great. And we will interrogate the two strongly held positions as held by Kiwa Likimani, who's the programs coordinator for Youth and Women Rights NGO, Mbasem Foundation, and international relations expert Dr. Vladimir Intridanso, who both join us on the lines. First, let me speak to Kiwali Kimani. Thanks for joining us this evening on Top Story. You believe the African Union's relevance is lost on Africans. What specifics make your perspective true?
Thank you, Evans, and I want to make a correction. My name is Kina Likimani.
Kina, right,
you.
Kina.
Yes, I think because, you see, we, as I said before, the young people, we are disenfranchised from what the age is doing. And in a way, I'm not against, I'm very much a Pan-Africanist. But the way in which we have implemented this very essential, because it is essential to our existence as Africans to be Pan-Africanist. But the way in which implemented it has disenfranchised us. We've not done it well. We don't hold ourselves accountable to each other. And we accept as Africans right now that there are people who will have standards of living wildly different from us. We haven't been able to build it about unity, and we are not unified. Coupled with that, we are also not free. We are really not free. But what if any institution like the EU that embodies this, our not being free, and also and actually exacerbates our disunity, makes EU irrelevant.
Kina, you do say we are not free. What feeds that assertion? We are, aren't we?
Well, yeah, okay. So Ghana has an Independence Day. A lot of African countries have Independence Day, but we don't control, we haven't built the economies that we need to put in place to free ourselves. We do not even sell. It will be hard for me to go out in Accra and even find a book written by other Africans unless they are the African Writers Series. We do not produce enough to make ourselves self-sufficient. We do not protect ourselves enough. And there's a sizable portion of the continent that is still very much holds ties to their colonial masters. We are not free. We are not totally free. And how do we, it's part of Pan-Africanism to free ourselves, to be totally sovereign, and to uphold our rights. We are stalled, and we've been stalled for decades.
You make such strong words, but the question I need to ask is, here we are 50 years tomorrow. Essentially, what essentially have we failed at? You speak of African unity and our inability to trade within ourselves, but what does it really come down to? Who has not taken that decision to make it work?
I think that everybody will say that it is our leaders. That's just a simple answer everybody likes to give. But like I say that we ourselves as Africans have failed Africans. We have failed to do the hard work. So that when we are not unified, you see, we are not unified. We don't have a sort of typical experience, a good typical experience we can build upon for being Africans.
Kina, you do say we have not been hardworking enough. Exactly what do you mean by that? We see economies working, we see people working hard in their offices, everybody grinding their hands to the wheel to make it work.
We've not worked hard enough on this project called Pan-Africanism. We've not broken down the barriers that that were erected around us as individual fragmented states. We've not addressed certain key issues that will lead us to unity. Some of it being culture, some of it being language, just building even the bonds, even things like transportation, certain things that help the movement of people across borders, even that. We haven't been able to do it properly. So if you go to Rwanda right now, all Africans entering Rwanda, the visas are free. This is different from other African countries. I keep coming back to the fact that Pan-Africanism means that also there must be some standard of experience that as Africans we can be guaranteed across our countries. But if my country is suffering and my neighbor and the leader of that neighbor refuses to help me, I don't see how that makes me Pan-Africanist. It doesn't make me Pan-Africanist, and we should demand more of ourselves. It's not just a feel-good kind of, ideology. It's an ideology that requires a lot of work. A lot of it is up here in our heads because, again, like Kwame Nkrumah always said, we needed to decolonize. That process of decolonizing our minds to get ourselves to Pan-Africanists, we haven't been able to do. In fact, we are not even interested in doing that anymore. Right now in Africa, we are increasingly accepting our colonized, internalized selves. So I don't see how we are going to achieve that 50 years from now, we're going to achieve Vision 2050, whatever that will be, without looking critically at ourselves and fixing the problems and committing ourselves to this road we have to be on. Because the only way Africa actually survives is through Pan-Africanism.
Right.
Not in the way we are doing it now.
Right, Kina, hold on for me, because we've been speaking to some people on the streets of Accra to also find out from them what they make of 50 years of the African Union and how far we've come, whether it's even relevant for us to commemorate the day. Let's hear them.
It's important for us to appreciate AU's Day because it helps us to know how Africa came about, where it's going, and at least it brings a cohesion among member states. So,
well, I think it's another African thing that people appreciate. So if we celebrate other things that are for the Westerners, so something for Africans as well is something it's worth celebrating.
Since Kuma town and I don't know any benefit from the AU Day. That one, I don't think so. To me, it's not necessary. To me, I think it's not necessary.
I don't think, because it's a total disappointment to the whole of Africa. One, we still rely on the Western countries because, one, we depend on them in everything. Taking our leaders who are being charged concerning war crimes, why can't they be tried in Africa? So I think it's a total disappointment as an African.
Right, so Kina, you heard them. The point they make is that our leaders and the 50 years of African Union that we've had has not done enough for us. You've made certain strong points, but I dare ask, what should be the way forward for us as we seek to commemorate the day tomorrow?
I think that we really need to bring the youth into the conversation. It is critical because how we move forward on this issue involves young people, and also it involves women, and crucially, actually, it involves all the segments of our population that are usually excluded from conversations like this. This population forms the majority of the African continent.
Kina, briefly for me, just hold the line for me, because we've been joined by international relations expert Dr. Vladimir Twida. So thank you so much for your time on Top Story. You've heard Kina and her strong views as to the African Union doing little in the cause which was originally made for it to achieve some 50 years ago. I want to find out from you, is it a lost cause already?
I do not think so. It's not a lost cause. If you have not achieved what you set yourself to achieve, it doesn't mean your cause is lost. It means there are some hiccuping problems on the way which we have not addressed. So I don't think it's a lost cause. And let me sound a note of warning that without integration, we should forget about any development of any of the individual countries. We need to come together, at least at the sub-regional level, to create some kind of integrative schemes.
Right, Dr. Infidanso, it's been 50 years. Some may argue that it's taken us a bit too long to achieve beyond just integration in the African sub-region.
Integration is slow and difficult, and if you don't go through the correct channels, it's difficult. The EU started in the 50s, and it was only in the 90s that they were able to get what they wanted, and they had very good economies. Integration is trade-induced, and we have several problems where trade is concerned. And therefore, once trade amongst ourselves is not that intensive, it will just be very difficult to achieve what we want to achieve. Besides, we are always sentimental about it. We are very, very sentimental about Pan-Africanism, and we have turned it into sloganism instead of mobilizing the people and mobilizing our economies to be able to put the economies together. So there are several hiccups. There are several things we haven't done right, and that is why we have not achieved that unity.
Can you just mention two of the several things we have not done right?
In the first place, as I said, we are not trading amongst ourselves. If integration is to create a common market, that is putting your economies together to create a common market, then we need to do everything to increase trade by breaking down the barriers to trade, including free movement of goods and services, including fiscal transfers, infrastructure development, political will, making the people understand integration. I mean, when we go and sign the agreement and we do not incorporate them into national plans, and we are only short-term. For example, we are thinking about the next elections, instead of thinking about how to integrate ECOWAS. All these things are things we are not doing properly. And so if these things are not done, there's no way we can integrate our economy. And
right.
Prudence in economic governance, that will make sure that we meet the convergence criteria that will make us be able to get one currency.
Right. Final word to you, Kina. You were making some key suggestions quickly for me. What should be the way forward for us as we commemorate 50 years of African Union tomorrow?
I think that everything that the Prof has said we need to do, and we need to dedicate ourselves to it. Again, I keep coming back to young people. We need to reach out to young people. We need to incorporate what they actually think and what they want to see happen into whatever framework we have about Pan-Africanism going forward. That's youth always.
Right. I want to say thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for joining me on the show. Kinali Kimani is the Programs Coordinator for Youth and Women's Rights NGO Massam Foundation, also International Relations Expert, Dr. Vladimir Mfidan. So this has been Top Story. My name is Francis Allen. Top Story is brought to you by Bond Financial Services, your success, our passion, Belacqua Mineral Water, the new generation mineral water, Blue Rose Limited, Shelter for All, Star Life, Assurance, as well as myjoyonline.com.